Welcome to Pilates. So this is our introductory video. One of a couple. We have some others that are talking about the alignment principles, introducing the exercises, the true Pilates exercises. This one is giving instruction specifically on this class. So this class is going to be online this semester. We apologize. We hopefully are going to be able to start seeing more one-on-one classes again. But this semester, the university has decided that it's going to be completely online. So all of the communication will be through Canvas. Make sure that you're familiar with Canvas, and you can email me through Canvas. Also looking at the syllabus, you'll be able to find other contact information. So make sure that you go through the syllabus, go through the announcements at least once a week to see if there's any communication from me or from the university. And then go and look at the other resources. We'll be using the modules. So in the section in Canvas that has the modules, you'll be able to see what your assignments are from week to week. And if you have any other questions whatsoever, you can always contact me either through Canvas or through the other contact information that's on the syllabus. Now we do have a workbook that you need to have access to. You can get this at UVU Library, but this is also very easy to get a hold of this. You can find this at any bookstore. All of the local libraries have this. You can get this on Amazon and eBay. A lot of ways that you can get a hold of this book, and you want to be able to get a hold of this because all of the information that is on the exams are taken directly from this. All of the exercises that you'll be tested on are inside this book. Also, all of the background information about Joseph Pilates and everything else that we're going to be discussing is contained in this book, so you can use this as a reference manual. You will also need to have access to other types of equipment. You'll need at least a yoga mat. So a couple of different possibilities. Some of them look like this. I recommend a yoga mat rather than a Pilates mat. You can get a Pilates mat. The difference is a yoga mat has a sticky surface on the top so that you're less likely to stick. But if you're practicing at home, you can probably get away with a Pilates mat because you're more likely to be on carpet or something like that. That's not going to have as much of a hardwood floor, so you're probably less likely to stick. But if you're on a hard surface, you definitely want to get something that will resist or reduce the possibility of slipping. If you are on a hardwood floor, we do also recommend getting a thicker mat, because we will be doing a lot of things on your back and on your spine, and sometimes just having that single mat can be a little bit thin and put extra pressure on your back. So if you can, get a second mat, and that will give you a little bit more padding. Now, as far as the other equipment, we will be using equipment later on in the semester, and so it's not required, but it's highly recommended. You can do all of the exercises without the props, but the props do enhance your practice, either by making things a little bit more challenging, or sometimes it's a modification that will make it a little bit easier. So a couple of props that I would recommend getting a foam roller is highly recommended. And the type of roller that we recommend is this hard, compact styrofoam one that is nice and smooth. They have many that have different kinds of surfaces, and while those are great for specific purposes, the bumps and the grooves can interfere with some of the different uses that we have. And so just having a nice smooth roller will give you more options, and it's more versatile. We may also use a nice squishy ball. This is called a bender ball, but any type of ball that you can use, You can use a beach ball, you can use something like that, just whatever you have on hand. We also have some weighted balls that we might use. So handheld kettle weights of different kinds, or barbell weights. Again, a lot of this is based on stuff that you may already have. So you can pick and choose which of these that you want to get. Some of these are more specific to Pilates. Some of them you can just use whatever you have on hand. We could use sliding discs. These are used for sliding on the floor. We may even get into just regular drumsticks. So if you have any drumsticks laying around, those might help. But for a lot of these, just a simple towel. If you don't have any of the straps or some of the other things, just a simple towel could potentially be used as a replacement. And as we start getting more into props, we'll show you how to use all of these different props. Now there's two types of bands that we'll be using. So these are flex bands, so they're kind of like giant rubber bands. And then we'll also use these yoga bands, which are not flexible. So having both of those on hand is helpful. Pilates tends to use a little bit more of the flex bands. If you're also doing yoga, yoga uses the yoga mats a little bit more. And then things like blocks. These are always nice to have on hand. So this is a yoga block. All right, so let's talk about some of the fundamental principles of Pilates. Pilates was invented by a guy named Joseph Hubertus Pilates. And in your book, we talk a little bit more about the history. He came up with an idea that was specifically about bringing alignment into the body and focusing on helping to correct postural imbalances. And among other things, the foundational core of the Pilates method uses 6 Pilates principles. So whenever you're practicing Pilates, you are always doing these 6 principles. And I'll bring it up really close so that you can see, nice and close. So if you're doing these 6 Pilates principles, you're doing Pilates. If you're not following these, you're not doing Pilates. And you can remember this by CCCFPB. So just think about that over and over in your mind. CCCFPB. So the first one is concentration. Always making sure that you are concentrating. Pilates is considered a mind-body exercise, so you're involving both the mind and the body, and that involves a lot of concentration. Now the next one is control. Control in Pilates is a very specific principle. What control means is that anything that you do in your body gives your body training and memory. And so it takes just as much focus and energy to do something incorrectly as it is to do it correctly. So if you're doing something, you want to make sure that it's done with intent. So control is about content. One way to think of it is you are not doing any motion that you do not have a purpose for. And every motion that you have is done with a purpose. Now the next one is physical centering. Physical centering in Pilates is a little bit different, again, from other types of centering. So like yoga, they would mean bringing everything into the center line. That's not necessarily what physical centering means in Pilates. Physical centering is talking about something called the powerhouse, which means that all motion is generated by the powerhouse. So the powerhouse is from about here, just past your hips. And it's this idea that if you want to correct postural imbalances, you work on the deep intrinsic muscles first, And then all of the superficial muscles in your arms and legs will follow suit and will be strengthened. So you're working from the inside out. So the idea of physical centering is working from the inside out, focusing on the powerhouse, and then there's also the concept of imprinting, which defines where your lower back is in certain exercises, helps to bring the spinal curvature back into its proper shape. The next one is flowing movement. Flowing movement, this is the idea of grace. It's the idea that when you are moving through a motion, it should be nice and even, nice and flowing, nice and graceful. It's about finding the full range of motion, and then as you're moving through that motion, there's no stops, there's no starts, there's no jerking. It's nice and smooth. And the idea is that if you cannot do a full range of motion with a nice, smooth motion, then that means that there's some sort of imbalance. So using flowing motion, it will help you to find the imbalances that the Pilates method is correcting. The next one is precision. Precision is often confused with control. They're very closely related. But this is the idea that your brain remembers and maintains what you do, but it also focuses on negativity. Just in this world, our brain focuses on negativity. And so if you are doing, say, 100 repetitions and 10 of them are done incorrectly, the brain will actually ignore all of the 99 and it will focus on the 10 that you did incorrectly. So you want to do as few incorrectly as possible so that you're doing as many correct as possible, and that trains your brain to get into the proper method. And the way that Pilates realized that you can ensure precision is by doing a low number of repetitions. So precision is this numbers game. If you think about it, the body and the brain, humans tend to do things about 99% accurately. So if you're doing 100 repetitions, your brain is usually working at 90% accuracy. So you're doing 10 of them incorrect and 90% correct. That's 10 that you're doing incorrectly. Now, if you're really, really super athletic, like an Olympic athlete, they may be able to get it up to 95%, but that's still 5 that they're doing incorrectly. So Pilates would take that and they would reduce the number of repetitions, so you're doing only between 5 and 10. So if you're at 10 repetitions at 90% accuracy, you're only doing 1 incorrectly. And if you're an Olympic athlete, rounding up, you're actually doing all 10 correctly. Take that down to 5, you're not doing any incorrectly. That's what precision is. And then the last principle is the breath. So in Pilates, this is listed last because the breath is the vehicle that is used to make all of the rest of this work. So let's talk a little bit more about the breath. Breathing is important because you need to breathe to live. But in Pilates, we use breath as the vehicle to get into and out of the pose. So usually when we're doing an exercise, if you're moving away from the body, you're exhaling, and then you inhale to reset. And you exhale to get into the pose, and then you inhale to reset. So that's how it's used. But the breakdown of the specific breathing method, there's 2 parts to it. First of all, it's belly breathing. So let's practice belly breathing. Belly breathing is involving your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is this muscle that is at the bottom of your rib cage. And when you're taking a breath, it will contract and it will actually move down into your abdominal area, pushing your intestines away, giving your intestinal and GI tract kind of a massage, but it also opens up all of this vacuum so that the air is pulled into the lungs. Now, a lot of us, especially in America, we use chest breathing, which is using the little tiny muscles between the rib cage to expand the rib cage. That was designed only as a supplement because those muscles don't really move very far, so you're not getting a very big, deep breath if you're using the chest. So to practice the belly breathing, place one hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach, close your eyes, just breathe naturally. Try to see what part of you is moving as you're inhaling and as you're exhaling. Now, if as you're inhaling, your chest is expanding and your stomach is kind of scooping in, that is chest breathing. That is breathing backwards. So now focus as you're inhaling, actually push your stomach out, your chest stays still, and then as you inhale, your stomach squeezes in to push that air out. You can also think of it as opening up a balloon that's all the way down at your hips. As you're inhaling, that balloon fills up in your abdominal area, and then as you exhale, you're pushing down into your hips. Inhale, opening up with the balloon, exhale, pushing down. And then the next part of Pilates breathing is you're inhaling through your nose, and then it's explosive breathing out your mouth. So taking a nice deep inhale through the nose, and then purse your lips, and it feels like you're whistling. So push the air out of pursed lips. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And a lot of times as we're breathing, we're going to be doing different repetitions and moving through that. So you are not necessarily inhaling with each time, but each time you have this percussive exhale that kind of smells or sounds like an inhale, and then exhale. Inhale, exhale. All right, so that is Pilates breathing. Practice this, get used to it, and anytime that you need to, you can come back and review these 6 Pilates principles. And keep in mind each of these 6 Pilates principles every time that you're doing a workout. Go and have a great day.